I've been playing a lot of Black Ops 6 since its release a few weeks ago, and while the game is certainly far from perfect, I'm really enjoying my time with it. It seems I'm not alone in that, as reception to the game has been far more positive than the last few Call of Duty games to come before it. Not only are the hardcore fans happy, but I've seen tons of people say they have come back to Call of Duty for the first time in several years. In many ways, Black Ops 6 feels like a return to form for Call of Duty, both in terms of game quality, but also how it's being viewed by the audience. Now, I'm primarily a multiplayer guy, so I'll be speaking from that perspective going forward. Multiplayer has its issues this year. The map selection is highly questionable, and there are several perks and abilities that desperately need tweaking. But despite this, I have found myself entranced by it, never wanting to stop playing. At first, I thought I felt that way because of the new fluid and rewarding movement system, or maybe I felt that way because of how polished and content complete the game was on day one. But as I've thought about it further, I think what stands out the most to me about Black Ops 6 is the way that Treyarch has embraced the community, something Call of Duty has not done for many years. This whole train of thought started for me when I saw this clip go viral on Twitter. The player in this clip hits a nice trick shot, and his character says a voice line that any longtime Call of Duty player is sure to recognize.
Hey, Ma, get the camera.
On top of this voice line, some of the medals in the game feature COD community sayings like turned on or 360 no scope. One could definitely argue that they are about 10 years late on all of these references, but hey, it's the thought that counts. And I do find it seriously charming to see the developers lean into these things. It makes the community feel seen and represented. It gives a little bit of soul back to a game like Call of Duty, which has become about as commercialized as a video game possibly can be. I mean, even the marketing of the game seemed more passionate, specifically the Replacer line of advertisements. The Replacer is a fairly obscure character from old marketing campaigns including Black Ops 2 and 4. Bringing him back and placing him in some hilarious situations may not seem that important, but I take it as a sign that the team is actually having fun again. Speaking of having fun, how about some of the voice chat friendly decisions Treyarch made? The body shield action allows you to speak directly to the opponent. And there is the sleeper agent field upgrade, which disguises you as an enemy and even allows you to join their team's voice chat. Both of these things are predictably being used for a lot of trolling and funny moments. This seems to be something COD has tried to stray away from as much as they could in previous years. Obviously, the developers aren't going to advocate for toxicity, but I just think having fun features like these in the game adds so much enjoyment to the experience. It's the kind of fun I miss from back in the days when people used to actually use their mics in video games. When all of the lobbies are dead silent, it can make Call of Duty feel so hollow. Adding features like the hostage move and the sleeper agent ability encourages voice chat and community interaction, and I absolutely love it. And the best news is, the community-friendly decisions don't stop at trickshot kill cams, meme references, and voice chat trolling. How about the fact that Treyarch finally brought back theater mode, something fans have been requesting return for years now? We also got the return of classic prestige instead of the unrewarding seasonal prestige system we had for the last few years. Another community-friendly decision was adding Nuketown to the game just 1 week after launch. This may sound obvious, but some of the recent games, specifically Modern Warfare 2022 from Infinity Ward, hesitated to add fan-favorite maps, instead forcing us to play the new ones. The best example of this was Shipment not being added to MW2 until nearly 2 full months after the game had been released. And then Infinity Ward would frequently remove the Shipment 24/7 game mode, clearly bothered by the fact that players wanted to play that map instead of the newer ones the developers had spent so much time designing. But Treyarch on the other hand said screw all that, you want Nuketown 24/7, you can have it. And hey, turns out the community responded well to a map called Stakeout. Sure, the players only like it because it's tiny and it's easy to farm XP and camo challenges, but who cares? They enjoy it, so let's give them a 24/7 playlist. Okay, so literally as I was making this video, the Season 1 update came out and they removed these playlists. Incredibly stupid decision that kind of ruins this particular point I was making here, but I will stand by the fact that them adding Nuketown this early was a nice touch, and recognizing players were responding well to Stakeout so quickly was a good sign. But come on guys, there is no reason to be removing playlists like Infinity Ward did. Please don't start that again. I'm trying to make a positive video here, and you're making it a bit harder. Anyways, the dedication Treyarch has shown by giving fans what they want is going to help the game so much in the long run, and it's these kinds of decisions that foster a community which lives in tandem with the developers, rather than resenting their every move. Let me stop there before this turns into an Infinity Ward rant video, because that's not the point I'm trying to make. In fact, I don't even think it's a problem with the specific dev teams, rather it's a problem with the way these games are getting made. For the uninitiated, the Call of Duty franchise has 3 primary development teams who make the games every year, alongside countless other support teams who help out. This is how Call of Duty is able to keep up with yearly releases in a time when almost no other AAA game series is able to do so. The general idea is that each dev team takes turns releasing a game, leading to roughly 3 years of development time for each game. The pattern became Infinity Ward game to Sledgehammer game to Treyarch game, and then repeat. But Black Ops 6 was different. BO6 ended up getting delayed internally, giving Treyarch 4 years from the release of their previous game, Black Ops Cold War. And I don't think it's a coincidence that everything I've said so far is present in the Call of Duty game that was given an extra year of development. It's fair to assume most Call of Duty games are made under extreme stress and crunch to get them out in time. When the developers are scrambling just to scrape together a working game, how are they supposed to have any extra time for fan-requested features such as theater mode? How are they supposed to have any time to include fun references or community-driven content? I think that's a major contributing factor to the soullessness I spoke about earlier. It seems clear that Call of Duty has outgrown this cycle and isn't able to keep up. Let's think back to when this 3-year cycle was first put into place. It began with Advanced Warfare in 2014, Sledgehammer's first full Call of Duty game. Back then, the multiplayer gaming space was in a much different place than it is now. There wasn't the same expectation of constant updates and new content throughout the year. Yes, Call of Duty always had DLC map packs and added some new weapons throughout the year, but that is nothing compared to the massive seasonal updates players expect today. For example, Modern Warfare 3 last year had new seasons every 2 months, with a fairly substantial mid-season update in between. That means there was essentially a major update every month, often including new maps, modes, weapons, challenges, battle passes, and more. Now compare that to the old Call of Duty games, which used to get 4 map packs with some weapons throughout an entire year. With this seasonal content strategy in place, a lot of the dev team has to stay behind and keep working on the current game before moving to the new one. So in reality, it's probably only 2 full years of development at this point, as opposed to the original 3-year cycle they had in mind. Call of Duty, and really the gaming industry at large, has outgrown Activision's previous 3-year cycle method, and I think Black Ops 6 is proof that it's time to rectify that. It seems pretty clear to me that Call of Duty is struggling to keep up with this 3-year cycle. The pattern has been all out of whack for a few years now, and they are stuck playing catch up. This is what led to Modern Warfare 3 being released the way it did. It seems like that game was cobbled together at the last minute, made especially obvious by its disastrous campaign. And while the set of remastered maps and multiplayer were cool and fun, that was another sign the game had been developed a lot quicker than normal. Now we're hearing rumors that Call of Duty 2025 will be another Black Ops game and will feature returning mechanics from BO6 such as Omni movement. That sounds pretty similar to MW3 in the way that that game featured a lot of returning features from MW2. So it would seem to me that Activision's new plan is to have these incremental half sequels bridging the gap. And I gotta say, I really hate that. First of all, I always liked the fact that every year we got a new developer making a new entry in their sub-series. It helped make the releases feel different and stand out. And look, I know everyone loves to say every Call of Duty game is the same, but anyone who actually plays them knows this isn't really the case, especially in the late PS4 Xbox One generation. Just look at the 3-year stretch of World War II to BO4 to MW 2019. All of those games are drastically different. And like I said, I always found having that variety to be pretty fun. It also meant that if a game came along that you didn't like for whatever reason, you knew something different was coming the next year. But now, thanks to these half sequels, we are getting Modern Warfare twice in a row, or Black Ops twice in a row. That is going to bring the every COD is the same haters back in full force, and it absolutely should, because in this case, the games are extremely similar. I think this new strategy could potentially tank Call of Duty's reputation significantly, especially if people start to catch on to the fact that they are essentially half-assing it with every other year's release. Could this influence people to only purchase Call of Duty every other year, or not trust certain releases based on its correlation to whatever other game came before it? I think that is absolutely a possibility. So what exactly am I asking for here? I am simply asking for Activision to release games when they are ready, to give their developers time to craft games that they want to make the way they want to make them, and don't jeopardize the future of your franchise for a business model that has been outdated for the better part of half a decade at this point. If that means having a year here or there without a new Call of Duty release, then so be it. I totally understand that I am talking to a wall here. Trying to convince Activision to turn down the billions of dollars they print from Call of Duty every year is not a very realistic request. But at the same time, they also spend hundreds of millions every year to make them. If they were to have a game that really hit, like Black Ops 6 has for example, they could support it for 2 years with microtransactions and updates that would probably make a whole lot of money in its own right. Meanwhile, this 2-year cycle would protect the quality of future releases and preserve the sanity of its developers. I'm kind of just rambling at this point, so let me wrap it up here. here. I think I've made my point pretty clear. In conclusion, BO6's 4-year dev cycle has shown me what can happen when a Call of Duty game is given the correct amount of time needed to be made. If Black Ops 6's quality and community-friendly decisions are any indication, then I believe the Call of Duty franchise as a whole would benefit greatly if this level of restraint and respect was shown to every entry. I can only hope Activision will take Black Ops 6 as a lesson learned and use it going forward.